Hey everybody, it's episode 327.
We are talking travel hacks.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prime Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Skip Wyss. As always, I have the travel hack genius, Dr. Julie Wyss with. She's also an incredible packer. Favorite game is Tetris.
Yes.
This woman can pack a truck and a bag like nobody's business. Let's talk packing for car travel, because that is different than plane travel.
Absolutely.
Because you're getting there faster. But not necessarily. Because when you're flying on a plane, it takes forever. The flight itself might be quick.
Mm-hmm.
But you have the lead up,
the
check-in,
the layover,
the security.
Mm-hmm.
Rule number one, if you're going to fly, don't pack nuts in your bag for your carry-on. Don't do it. Because every time you pack it, you will get searched. You get searched every time. When we had almonds, cashews, anything nut-related, they
Trail
searched
mix,
it.
yep.
They always searched your bag. But when it came to breast milk, no big deal.
And you can travel with breast milk.
Yep, you can.
And
you
sometimes
can.
that's the
milk in a
quick and
cooler.
easy that you can get into the family lanes, which, that's a perk because then you get to fly by everybody else, even some of the TSA pre-checks that you can, mosey up to the gate relatively before takeoff. Set your cooler up there. They'll just do a quick check of it, make sure that there's enough ice in there to keep it frozen. But you can definitely travel with your breast milk.
Yep, traveling with breast milk, super easy, especially when you're traveling in a car. I think both is super easy. So, okay, so let's get into my topics. Number one, all right? Number one, I have this wrote down. Plan your trip ahead of time to show your kids what's going on. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, so we work with a lot of families that struggle, or we have some high functioning, or just kids that just get anxious really, really easy, or have that anxiety no matter the age. Even some adults are that way. And what we have found, this works really good for school as well, even though we're just kind of finishing up. But if you know where you're going, and the struggles, I like surprises. But that doesn't work well for everybody else.
You don't
right?
like when I surprise you with topics on here.
Oh, I don't mind it. However, what works best is, let's say we're going to a water park,
okay,
or an amusement park, right? So looking at that website together as a family, if you can get pictures of it, talk about the rides, just to kind of ease that anticipation. So then when they get there, it's not like an all out, like, panic attack of what the heck is going on. This isn't what I thought, right? Because everybody has really great imaginations, and maybe they build it up, or maybe it wasn't built up enough, and then they show up and they're not sure what's going to happen. So along that way, depending upon what the drive is as well, or if you're taking the plane, what does that look like? If you had to cut out stickers of each part of the journey, or flashcards, like, we're going to be in a rental car. This is maybe what it's going to look like, or what could be fun that maybe they get to help pick out the color, or how many seats. What is it going to look like, if we're driving, what kind of car games that we can potentially do. But try to cut those up in pictures along the way, because then that kind of takes the anxiety away, and then they know what to anticipate. So they can go into that, and you can have the best experience, because we're not throwing somebody off of the rocker of like, I wasn't expecting that. And that's where you get that full out meltdown.
Yeah. So make them super, you nailed it. Super aware. I knew that's right where you would go.
Fully informed.
Make sure fully informed, because even when you have a soon to be 17-year-old like our daughter, she likes an entire itinerary every day.
To the like 15 minutes.
Down to yes, she needs to know what's going on. I almost have to put a bathroom schedule on there for her. It makes her day easier. It makes her mind
she knows
more
what
at ease.
to anticipate that, okay, and especially it's like, well, how do I need to dress? Like, what can I expect? Am I going to do this? And then I have to change. And so that's like footwear. All of those things comes in. It's really important. And that's where, like you brought up teens, like sometimes that's the struggle that that's where the overpacking comes in, because they don't know what to expect.
Yep.
So if you can already set the expectation of, okay, these are the things that we're going to do. We might do this, but that only means one extra pair of shoes, or maybe you need a nice outfit versus 7 nice outfits, and you're going to be, playing in the water. So you
Mhm.
really just needed 7 swimsuits and one nice outfit.
Well, we think about like when did we go and like all she packed was shorts when we went to Chicago.
Mm.
It was supposed to be really nice. So Pate packed dresses and shorts, and it ended up being cold and rainy. So she was upset. Luckily, like we had stuff along,
We
but
made it work.
understanding that. But then as they get older, as your child gets older, the adaptability actually decreases. When they're little, you can adapt, compensate, do things on the fly. They tend to handle it really well because they're not turning into adults. As they turn into teens, traveling with teens is actually more complicated because their ability to adapt is not like yours. If you have a high functioning kid too, not saying our children are because they're not, but if you have a high functioning child, like that can really disrupt. If something all of a sudden changes, or you get a flight cancellation, or you have to sit in an airport for a few hours, or let's say there's a delay in traffic, or you're stuck in Atlanta,
So
like
it's
driving.
it's talking about all of those things that like,
Mhm.
hey, this is what happens when people fly. And so like what does that look like for the backup? It's like just kind of planning for all of the things. And I know people don't like to plan for that because they're going to put that out into the world that it's going to happen, but just, like, hey, it's no big deal. We weren't meant to be, on that flight. Here's what's going to happen next. And it's kind of like a happy little accident. A little detour is what you get to experience
Happy
together.
little accident,
Mhm.
no Bob Ross. So let's talk about the next thing, which
Mhm.
is the cell phones, these electronic things. It's very easy to give your children electronics. It is.
Mhm.
We've done it. In fact, the only time when they were little, our kids did get electronics is that we bought a portable DVD player
Mhm.
that attached to the back of our headrests, and they would watch movies.
Mhm.
But they would watch movies from their seat. They wouldn't be sitting there with their tablet in front of their face or a phone in front of their face. It's different.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that we did it right, but it's different in proximity to their eyes, and it's different in their head position. I
Right.
think that is one of the most key things, is that watching something up in front of you on a tablet, like if you're flying in a plane in front of you versus down here, way different. Same thing when driving in a car. This position leads to this position, which then really destroys their neck. Does that make sense?
And I would say, it's kind of like, well, that's the cop out. So say you're
Mm-hmm.
taking a road trip, let's just set a new standard, make it different. If maybe they're always on their tablets, maybe for that car ride, they're not. And then so you're planning ahead and you've already planned the car games, the license plate, or you need to look at and find so many things before you get to earn some time on your
Mm-hmm.
tablet or to watch a movie. Or
Mm-hmm.
it's like, heck, I mean, I remember it was like we weren't even out of town and it was already, well, can we watch a movie?
With our
And
kids.
so, yeah,
Yeah,
so it's like
absolutely.
get out of, let them actually like see what's going on outside in the world. And that's where like some of these kids don't even know what a farm looks like. Well, it's
Yep.
because they're not living outside of, the screen of what's in the car. And
And
so I
I
think
see
that's
it.
really important.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. And I see it too, like when we're traveling via airplane. There's a lot of parents who have their kids on tablets while they're going through the airport.
Mhm.
That is actually one of the most least opportune times you should ever have your child on a tablet, because there is so many things going on around them. They need to experience life. They need to experience the sounds. They need to experience people, hustle and bustle, energy, make them aware of their environment. That desensitizes them to the hustle and bustle. And what I mean by that is, as they're getting used to it and you're traveling, it's not such a massive overload to their senses, versus if they're on their tablet all the time, or let's say they have headphones on and they're looking at their phones or their screens. That completely disengages them from their external environment, and that's not good from a survival
Well,
standpoint.
it's survival, but also
Right.
safety,
And
right?
safety,
And so
right.
that's a like when we live down here, we can't see what's happening, and that's where it's so easy that all of a sudden, like the child walks off, and it wasn't intentional at that
Yeah.
point. But then when they finally look up and see
You
what
could
they're
be
in,
gone.
that's where the panic sets in.
Mhm.
And so, like, if you can start to just make sure, like during those times that that we are alert and we're seeing what's around us, that we can take out like, okay, I just passed the Chick-fil-A. Now I know that I'm going to keep going past that, or like there's the donut shop, and just kind of see those things, but then have that conversation and discuss about it, that like, hey, this is why, because look at all these people. This is why we do things a certain way. This is why we hold hands. This is why we have, a password that we share as a family.
Yep.
And again, a lot of that is, we never want to scare our children, but part of it is we just also need to be alert and they need to understand why we're doing the things that we're doing.
I think also, since you're on the topic of that, of children maybe getting lost, this is something that a lot of parents tend to forget, especially if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, it was standard. Not so much in 2000, but a common meetup point if you are lost. Like where to go, what to find, who to find. So one of the most important things established-wise with our kids when they were younger is we meet back here if we're lost, and these are the people you look for if you're lost. You find this person, they look like this, they're dressed like this, they have on a name tag, and you tell them you can't find your parents, and you stay put. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is that if they're moving around and you're moving around, the chances of you finding each other aren't that high. But if you can backtrace and they stay put, you're going to find them. And we've had this happen. We lost our kid in Disneyland for 5 minutes. Like, it was scary. It was scary as hell. And she was scared. Like, she still brings that up at 17. And what had happened is Peyton had took a left when we had all went right to exit out of an exit row. And the person that was supposed to be watching her took a right and walked away from her. And when she turned around, she was stuck in a bunch of people and we were gone. And we had no idea. So those are the things to really help keep track of your children, right? Mm-hmm. Now, number 3, all right? Snacks and juices and drinks. So let's talk travel foods, because this can be really hard, especially if you eat clean. Right. If you are a very clean, organic family, you don't do a lot of dairy, you don't do a lot of carbohydrates, you try to keep a lot of processed things out, convenience might become an issue.
But this is where, again, you plan ahead. So this is when you get to bring out, like the big guns of, this is the special treat. Like, this is the snack bin that, you've already vetted. And like buy it in bulk, but then you can prepackage it and have the kids do that, or get the fun little snack boxes that they get to, rifle through to figure out what they want, because that's going to ease if you're on the plane or in a car. Again, that's going to have a little bit of normalcy, but also that fun of like, okay, we're having a little bit of a picnic. But those are those things you definitely don't want to leave to chance. So if you can plan those things ahead, snacks. If you're traveling via air, that's different with your drinks and your beverages that you're bringing. But then maybe you get a special water bottle, and after you're through TSA, that's where you can fill that up with your water at the water fountains. Like, we have different hydration drinks. That's where you can put those flavors and things in there. Again, just to make it convenient and also easy. Because the last thing that you want is somebody hungry, travel's been interrupted, somebody thirsty, we're getting dehydrated, that you have those things on hand.
And being budget conscious, traveling and not having things pre-packed, whether you're in an airport or in a car, it gets expensive. Convenience stores are called a convenience for a reason, and they charge you for that convenience. And
they don't care the price.
If most of you haven't noticed in the last year, the price of things at convenience stores has went really high, like really high, where if you're in like the chip aisle and you go to get your kids like a bag of chips or something like that, you're going to be paying $4 for a small bag that used to cost you 99 cents. Like, it's a massive change. And if we go back to our episodes from last year on planning summertime foods, our graphics designer Georgia did an amazing job. It's, if you go in there and look, it's the one with like the it looks like all the foods made into like a face. And we talk about the kids being active and creating their own snacks and taking that along so they can create their own trail mix. They can create their own granola bars. Packing beef sticks, high protein foods, super important. I would not recommend traveling with cheese. Everybody take travel with cheese. Cheese melts. It gets disgusting. Like, don't travel with that. And another reason why, though, is because dairy is an immunosuppressant, creates mucus, affects your immune system. And when you're traveling, you don't want to end up sick. You don't want to end up with a cold. So don't do anything to hurt it. Now, a lot of parents as well, I really like this one, Dr. Julie. A lot of parents as well will say this, well, we're on a trip and, we're only going this year. So we'll let out a little leniency. We're like, okay, you know what? They can have the Pacific Suns. They can have the high C or the sunny D or these stupid things we used to get when we were kids that we know are not healthy for us.
Well, they've changed too.
They have. But here's the thing with that. All of those are heavily dyed. There's tons of dyes. So if you have a child that's not used to having that in their diet, it will 100% backfire on you. Your child will end up sick. They'll freak out in the car. They'll freak out on the plane. They'll go through a neuro attack because all those dyes will affect how their brain's going to function. And it'll affect you too. Because if you don't eat like that and you eat that garbage, you cannot tell me that that's not affecting you. You eat that and within an hour, you're short with your spouse, you're short with your kids, you want to take a nap, you might have a stomach ache. You just messed up and ingested that garbage.
And there's so many alternatives now that you can get that don't have the colored dyes, that's not chock full of sugar. And we have some of those, things on hand as well. And that's where like they make the travel to go packs, and you can get the flavors, for the waters, and just it's super simple. Or if you're in the car ride, you take your ice cube tray and you put some frozen strawberries or kiwi, and you freeze that in your ice cubes, and you put that in the kids' water bottle. So then it's kind of a special treat, maybe something a little bit different for them, that they get to enjoy that way. And then they have the fruit, muddled already in their water to kind of give it that flavor too.
And if you start this early in their life, they know no different. They don't know any difference. This is what they think packing needs to be. And then also you can pack sandwiches, things like that. Taking that into an airport is smart too. They let food through. They don't think about that. They don't let water through, but they'll let food through, which is great.
So stop, get your favorite salad, before you're going through, and then you can sit in the airport, and you can eat and enjoy that. People are like, where did you get that? Well,
on the plane.
I got that in Green Bay before we left, or you're eating it on the plane. Because if somebody's on the plane, they're gonna be eating that pizza. Like, just be prepared for, okay, what are the healthy snacks that we have, or the things that our kids are actually going to enjoy and get a benefit from.
Number 4. Yes. The most annoying thing when traveling is the "are we there yet?" The "are we there yet?" And so what I'm talking about here is rest stops. How often do you stop? How long should it be between rest stops? What do you do there? I say this. We push her through until we pee our pants. That's how your dad rolled. That's how me and you roll when we drive. But I'm usually the one that has to burst first. And it's usually about 90 minutes to 2 hours. It's about 2 hours, 2.5 hours in. That's a great time to stop. One, as a parent, it gives time for your back to unload, and you can actually get out, walk around, move around. But number 2 is it resets your kids. That's something super, super important, is it resets your kids.
And I think this is super important, especially for boys. If you're traveling with boys, like throughout the day, like just boys in general, they need to wrestle, they need to run, they need to have that gruffness in them. So especially when you're on the road, everybody, it's not like I don't have to go to the bathroom. Everybody needs to get out of the car. Everybody needs to walk around, get that movement. And I mean, if you're really good, you're going to be kind of planning out, okay, we're going to maybe get to this point. Here's the perfect park that we can go to.
Yep.
So you've already planned out, this is where this rest stop is going to be, and here's the activity that we get to do along the way. That's also one of the nice things of being able to kind of go with the flow, that this is ultimately where we're going to get to, but we can make these stops along the way. And so like when you see like the world's largest ball of yarn, it's kind of like make that stop, right? Because then it's going to give you that reason. That's what came up, to get out of the car, do something silly as a family, because what we find out, those are the things that your kids actually remember versus the actual big thing that you were going to go and do. So this is like your opportunity to do those silly things along the way to make those memories. Because that's ultimately, when you're doing your road trips, that's ultimately what you want anyways.
Now, keep this in mind, disclaimer, I created this list on my own. There's no chat GTP involved here. And this idea that I had could be groundbreaking, is set a timer. And the reason why is if you had a small timer in your car, and let's say you're going to stop every 2 hours, when your kids ask, are we there yet? Have them look at the timer and watch it count down. And that way they know, like, hey, in 20 minutes, Dad's going to stop. But you need to stop. You need to live by it. You can't look back and say, like, all right, is everybody good?
Oh, another 20 miles.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, we're going to try to make the next way stop 20 miles. Do you know what happens? Within 3, somebody's got to pee. Because you suggested it. You asked. You brought it up. You brought it to the foresight. And now everybody's got a full bladder. Somebody's got to take a poop. Yep. So, like, we got to know what's going on.
Clock.
But the counttowner. And not just the clock. Like a literal timer. Yep. And I think like putting one on your dash so you know. And you know what then too is it keeps you or it keeps your wife accountable too, because then you're both going to be working on it together and you both know, all right, skip stopping in 15
And you can,
minutes.
yeah, you can,
Yep.
and that's where planning ahead of, the a proximity of where you're going to be. I like that.
And it helps you too, because when you're reading, you know when to stop your book and I don't have to interrupt you as much. Number 5, last one. And this was kind of a cool one because a parent brought this up. This is actually provided you by one of our amazing patients who actually said we need to do a podcast on travel hacks because she trusts us so much. FaceTiming with your kids at night. If you are not traveling with your children, I highly suggest and have you consider that any child under the age of even 8 should not be FaceTimed with at night. Doesn't mean you can't call them, but do not
earlier.
FaceTime.
Before dinner.
Do not FaceTime. The reason why is this. They don't know where the hell you went. Period. And that parent or that whoever's watching your kid just had their entire night turned on their head because that kid wants to see you.
You say age 8 or 9, but this is also a benefit to the parent because I can always tell when you're getting homesick or you're missing the kids because you'll start scrolling the kids' pictures.
Yeah.
And that changes your entire demeanor. So couples, if you're heading away, make sure that you're not looking, at pictures of your kids. You can check in, you can do that phone call and things, but just set the car timer. But just be cognizant of that. Like, that's not to say like you don't love your children. We don't love our children, but it's also important for you to have that time. And if you start looking and reminiscing of those pictures, then you're just going to be missing home all that more. So if you feel that way as an adult, realize what the child can't process that and understand. You didn't just go into the bathroom and you're going to walk back out. You're physically gone and not knowing when you're going to return.
And they have no idea. I didn't know that me missing the kids affected our mood together. Good to know. Good to know. All right. So those are some simple travel hacks that you can do to keep your kids as healthy as possible. But number one, on top of all that, is keep your sanity as the parent. Because the kids are adaptable to a point. But you are the one that have to run the ship. And remember, if you get stressed, you get tired, your fuse gets short, so does everybody else. So I hope that these things help a lot.
Yeah, and I would just keep it simple. If we've learned anything over the last 17 years, it's the parent usually puts on the big thing that everything needs to be perfect. And this is the big thing that we're going to do. We're going to cram all this in there. And really, if you actually understand what your kids want, they just want time with you. Instead of like the whole big trip, they just want to dig in the sand.
They just want to dig in the sand.
That's all they want. Collect seashells. And snuggle.
And have ice cream at night. That's what they want. All right, everybody. Share this with as many people as you possibly can. Share these summer travel hacks because you know as well as we do, it's going to help you and it's going to help your friends and they're going to think you're a genius. So have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great week. Bye, everyone.